The clock ticks. Every single second, a company somewhere is starting to bleed. It is not from a physical wound, but a digital one. Data is the lifeblood of the 21st century. Right now, it is being siphoned, encrypted, or simply erased. It is a silent war fought in the shadows of the internet. In this world, the weapons are lines of code and the targets are our most valuable secrets. Tonight, we are going to plunge into that abyss together. We are dissecting the anatomy of an attack that never actually happened, yet revealed everything. You see the headlines all the time. Major corporation hacked. Data breach exposes millions. But you rarely see the hidden battleground where these wars are actually waged. These battles are not fought with malice, but with meticulous planning and ethical intent. We are talking about the cyber attack simulation, the ultimate proactive defense. It is a sparring match where the good guys play the villains to learn their darkest tricks. Our story begins not with a crime, but with the anticipation of one. Meet Omnicorp, a fictional titan of industry. They are a sprawling entity dealing in everything from advanced AI to global logistics. They believed they were secure. They had the firewalls, the antivirus, and the strict policies. They even had a dedicated cybersecurity team watching the gates. Yet a nagging doubt persisted at the highest levels. In an era where a single breach could cripple a company and destroy decades of trust, good enough was no longer an option. Enter Project Chimera. Omnicorp commissioned an elite team of ethical hackers, a red team, to do the unthinkable. Their mission was to breach their own defenses. They were told to act like the most sophisticated state-sponsored cybercriminals. They would leave no stone unturned and no vulnerability unexploited. This was not a simple penetration test. It was an all-out digital siege. This is the kind of high-stakes scenario we love to explore here on this cybercrime documentary. It is a deep dive into the what-ifs that keep security chiefs awake at night. The red team began with reconnaissance, just like any real attacker would. They did not just scan for open ports. They scoured public records and social media for any scrap of information. They were hunting for an edge. Employee names, management structures, software versions. Every single piece of data was a potential key to the kingdom. This is the art of open source intelligence, or OSINT. It is the initial and often overlooked phase of almost every major cyber attack in the real world. Their first major thrust came through the oldest trick in the book. It is still the most effective method today. Social engineering. They crafted a series of highly personalized phishing emails. They targeted specific employees in the finance and HR departments. One email was disguised as an internal IT alert about a critical security update. It contained a link that would install a custom backdoor. Another email seemed to come from a senior executive. It requested urgent financial data while bypassing all standard protocols. The trap was set. The goal was not just to gain access. They wanted to understand the human element, which is the weakest link in any security chain. Would employees follow the rules? Or would they question a suspicious request? This simulation aimed to answer those uncomfortable questions. It provided insights that no firewall in the world could ever deliver. Let us break down what happened when an Omnicorp employee clicked that link. We will call her Sarah from Accounts Payable. The moment she clicked, a cleverly disguised payload was executed. This was not some off-the-shelf malware you find on a basic forum. It was a bespoke creation designed to evade Omnicorp's specific antivirus solutions. It established what we call a beacon. This beacon is a persistent and low-bandwidth connection. It talks back to the red team's command and control server, to the network. It looks just like legitimate traffic. From this foothold, the red team began its lateral movement. Think of it like a burglar who gets into the house through an open window and then starts quietly exploring every room. They were looking for valuables. They exploited internal network misconfigurations and weak local administrator passwords. They even hunted for unpatched software on internal servers. They began to escalate privileges. This means they gained higher and higher levels of access. Eventually, they had administrative control over several critical systems. This phase is crucial in any cybercrime documentary. It reveals how a small breach can rapidly snowball into a full-scale compromise. One infected workstation becomes a launchpad. If internal segmentation and monitoring are weak, a single laptop can lead to a network-wide takeover. The red team was now moving toward the crown jewels. They wanted the customer database, the intellectual property, and the financial transaction systems. They used techniques like pass-the-hash attacks to harvest credentials without cracking passwords. They sniffed network traffic for unencrypted sensitive data. They probed internal file shares for confidential documents that should have been locked away, but the simulation did not stop there. It also incorporated DDoS attacks, where a flood of artificial traffic overwhelms servers to make services unavailable. They wanted to see if the system would buckle. They even emulated a ransomware attack. They locked down simulated critical systems and demanded a ransom payment. Of course, this was all in a controlled environment. The goal was to test more than just the technical defenses. They were testing the incident response procedures. How quickly could Omnicorp detect, contain, and recover from the chaos? After weeks of relentless digital warfare, the simulation concluded. The red team lead stood before the Omnicorp executives to deliver the final results. The atmosphere in that room was tense. The report was not just a list of technical vulnerabilities. It was a chilling narrative of how a determined adversary could have destroyed the company. They revealed that within 72 hours of the first breach, they had full administrative control. They were inside the central customer database, accessing millions of sensitive records. They had successfully exfiltrated critical intellectual property. They even simulated the sale of those secrets on a dark web marketplace. The executives were visibly shaken. They had even managed to manipulate financial reports on a test system. This demonstrated the potential for devastating economic fraud. The reality was starting to sink in. Perhaps the most sobering revelation was the human element. The red team's social engineering efforts had a 60% success rate on the very first attempt. This meant a huge portion of employees were susceptible to well-crafted phishing. This was not a failure of technology. It was a failure of awareness and training. The cost of a real breach of this magnitude would have been catastrophic. We are talking about hundreds of millions in regulatory fines, incident response costs, and legal fees. Then there is the immeasurable damage to the brand. Consumer trust built over decades can vanish in a single night. Stock prices would plummet and the company might never recover. The FBI's latest reports show that the average cost of a data breach is climbing. For large enterprises, it often exceeds $4 million. This simulation was a mirror reflecting Omnicorp's deepest insecurities. It was a stark and unvarnished look at the modern digital battlefield. In this world, preparedness is the only true defense we have left. So, what did Omnicorp learn from all of this? And more importantly, what can you learn from their controlled catastrophe? The insights were invaluable. It led to a comprehensive overhaul of their entire cybersecurity posture. First, they invested heavily in employee training. They moved beyond annual slideshows. They started using interactive and realistic phishing simulations. They wanted to ensure employees could identify and report suspicious activity in real time. Your people are your first and last line of defense. A vigilant employee can often spot what an automated system might miss entirely. Education is power. Secondly, network segmentation became a top priority. They moved away from a flat network where an attacker could move easily from one department to another. They implemented microsegmentation to create isolated zones. If one part of the network is compromised, the breach is contained. This protects the critical assets from lateral movement. Thirdly, their incident response plans were not just updated, they were regularly practiced. Tabletop exercises became a quarterly event for the whole leadership team. They wanted to make sure everyone knew exactly what to do when a real attack occurred. This includes clear communication protocols, legal counsel, and public relations strategies. They also embraced advanced technologies like zero-trust architecture. In this model, every user and device must be verified before accessing any resources. It does not matter if you are inside the office or remote. They added endpoint detection and response solutions for continuous monitoring. And of course, they mandated multi-factor authentication for every single system. It is a simple but incredibly effective barrier. The message from Omnicorp's ordeal is clear. Proactive defense is non-negotiable. In a world where cyber threats evolve every day, reacting is a losing strategy. By embracing a rigorous cyber attack simulation, organizations can turn their vulnerabilities into strengths. They can transform from potential victims into unyielding fortresses. The digital landscape is a treacherous one, full of unseen dangers. But with vigilance, education, and strategic preparedness, we can protect what matters most. The darkness of the internet is vast, but understanding it is the first step to conquering it. Remember, knowledge is your strongest shield in the digital realm. Stay safe. Stay anonymous. This is the Digital Sleuth.